Hello, how are you doing today? Good to have you and to share this space with you. It's always an amazing time. Okay, now today we have a very special topic, and it is food preparation. Now, what does it take to prepare food? Do you have an idea? Oh, I'm sure you like food, yes, just like we all are foodies, okay? Now, there are ways and methods in which we need to prepare food. So we are going to be looking at some of those methods, how we can prepare our favorite foods, okay? Now maybe you've been doing it one way or the other. We're going to be learning the different ways in which we can prepare food. Okay, I'm sure you're already willing and eager to learn. So sit back and relax. We're going to learn a lot today in today's class. Now there's some things you're going to be learning as in focus in the course of this class. So at the end of this class, you should be able to explain the meaning of food preparation. So you should be able to know what food preparation entails, what it means. So when we talk about food preparation, you should be able to say, oh, this is what food preparation means. And also you should be able to state the reasons for cooking food. Why do we need to cook food? By the way, do we really need to cook food? Of course, we're going to be looking at the reasons why we need to do what? Cook food. Then also we have to list the types of food used in cooking. How many do you know? Maybe we're going to be learning about some of the foods that are used in cooking food. Maybe the ones you're not familiar with and the ones you see around. We're going to learn some other foods that are used in cooking food that you're not aware of. So let's get started. Now, cooking is the preparation of food to bring about physical or chemical change, okay? Now, when you cook food, now from what it used to be to something else, now you have your raw ingredients and then you're trying to cook them. So you're causing a physical change or a chemical change in what you're trying to prepare. Now, that is what cooking is all about. When you cook, you're trying to do a whole lot to what you're preparing to make it look different from what it was, and also to cause about, some chemical changes in the food. That is what cooking is referred to as. Now, what is the definition of food preparation? What is the definition? Now, food preparation can be said to be like acting or making food ready for consumption. Now, that process where you have to make food ready for consumption is what? Food preparation. You got let's use your Indomie, your noodles as an instance. You got your noodles and then it's all raw. I know sometimes you want to chew it raw like that, but it's not healthy to do that. And then you want to prepare it, and then you have your veggies if you want to add veggies, and then you're cutting everything, getting it ready to prepare for the meal. So that process, okay, is food preparation. You're trying to prepare something for you to eat. So it's called what? Food preparation, so for your consumption. Now this may be cooking or milling, some food stuff like fish, okay, you need to clean them, and then you need to get all those dirty things away from them so you can actually eat them healthy. So that process too is called food preparation, getting your meats and then you're washing them, doing a whole lot of that. That is what food preparation as well. Now when it comes to milling, when it comes to your cereals and all of that, that process whereby you have to get all these other embryos, the outer layers to get your cereals, all of these are food preparation to get it healthy for you to do what? To eat. Taking the bones out. Maybe you want to make fillet or your steak, you have to take the bones out and then see that you have your meat or fish free from bones. All of these are processes whereby you're preparing food. I'm sure you know that now. Now let's move on. Let's look at the reasons for cooking food. Do you know some of the reasons why we need to cook food? Okay, we're going to be looking at some of the reasons to cook food. The first reason why we cook food is to introduce variety to the diet. Now, we cook food because we want to introduce variety to the diet. We want to make the diet, very, different looking, all spicy and different. Let's still go back to your noodles. You just have your noodles and then you want to make it, and then you're adding your veggies, you're adding carrot, you're adding cabbage, you're adding your onion and all of that. You're adding variety, you're making it more rich for you to eat rather than just eating it as it is. So that is to introduce variety in the diet. Another reason why we cook food is to preserve food for later use. Now the reason why we cook food is because we want to use it for some other time. You cook food and then maybe later you're going to have it, maybe you have them put them in the fridge and then you keep them for a period of time. These are some of the reasons why we cook food. Another reason, which is very important why we cook food, is to do what? To destroy microorganisms, okay, that causes food to do what? To deteriorate, to get spoiled and bad. Now, you cook food because you need to destroy some microorganisms. Some of these are raw foods, are very contagious, and if you don't do what? Cook them, you're going to be eating a whole lot of what? Taking a whole lot of illness to yourself, okay? Now, cooking them not really too well cooked, and then you just pick some of the raw foods, okay, and then you start eating them. There are some things you need to let heat come in contact with in the course of cooking. So when you do that, you're going to be killing some of the microbes that needs heat to be cooked, so they cannot infect or affect us while we eat them. So it's very important that you cook food so as to destroy microorganisms in the food that can cause food to deteriorate. Another reason why we cook food is to make it soft and easier to swallow and digest. Yes. So you cook food because you want them to digest easily, you want it to be easier for you to swallow, and then, you know, so these are some of the reasons why you cook food. To be able to swallow and to digest it. Just imagine eating food that is raw and then you're trying so hard, you know, it's not digesting. It's going to cause more harm than good to our health. So the reasons why we cook food is that, to make it easier to digest and for us to swallow. Another reason why we cook food is to make it more attractive and to improve what? Its appearance. Yes, to make it more attractive. Now, food, you know, should be appealing. It should be presentable. When you cook food and then it's presented, it should look very what? Appealing for someone to do what? Want to eat it, okay? So that's one of the reasons why we cook food, to make it what? Attractive and to improve what? Its appearance. Very, very important. When you cook food, you know, the appearance changes from what it used to be, and then it looks or tastes better. Another reason why we cook food is to make it safe to consume, as some bacteria that cause illness are killed in the course of cooking, just as we said earlier, okay? Now, when you cook your food, some of these bacteria that are not safe for us to consume are going to be what? Killed in the course of cooking it. So you're going to be eating healthy. Now, these are the reasons why we cook food. Okay, now we're going to be looking at the methods of heat transfer during cooking. Now, heat transfer is common when you are cooking, and then we want to look at some of these methods that are common when we cook, the heat and the effects on cooking. Now, we have radiation, okay? Now, radiation is the transfer of heat of air through the air medium. Example, when you're baking or you're grilling. Now, that process is referred to as what? Radiation, okay? Now, heat is transferred through what? Air. Now, that medium is used or is referred to as what? Radiation. Maybe you're grilling, you're baking. When you're baking in your oven or you're grilling, now that process is referred to as what? Radiation. That is what is happening as you're what? Preparing. That's the heat that occurs when you bake, is referred to as what? Radiation. Now, the another effect of heat or heat transfer we have is what? Called convection. Now transfer of heat in liquid medium. Now, this is referred to as those heat that are transferred through liquid. Now, examples are steaming and then boiling, okay? That has to do with, you know, liquid, water. Now, steaming has to do with when, you know, there's no contact with water as far directly as it refers to boiling. We're going to look at that. Okay, but steaming has to do with, you know, the steam. Let's say for instance, you want to prepare moi moi. Let me just give you this instance. You're preparing moi moi, and then you don't want it to come in contact with what? Water. And then you can just put water in a pot, and then you have your sieve. You can put a sieve on top of it. I'm just giving you an instance of what an easy way how you can steam food at home. Then put your sieve, or, you know, this stainless sieve on top of it, and then you put your moi moi. Is it that where you have wrapped them or where you have put them in a plate? You put them there. So as the water keeps boiling, the steam cooks your food, whatever thing you want to get. And it's very healthy for those persons that are ill, no, for invalid. So steaming method is very good, and boiling, if you remember from our previous class. Okay, so that method whereby heat is transferred through through liquid is referred to as convection. Now another medium of heat transfer is referred to as what? Conduction. Now this is the transfer of heat in solid medium. Okay, now example, transfer of heat from one source of cooking pots and pans. Now this is conduction. Maybe you're using a frying pan and you're preparing something. Now this method is referred to as what? Conduction. I'm sure you are able to differentiate each and every one of them, from radiation, convection, and what? Conduction, just in case you're asked in an exam setting. Now let's move on. Now we want to look at the types of fuel used in cooking. Now when we talk about fuel is the burnt material that is produced, okay, when we heat up something on fire. Okay, now when you use your fuel, we have different types of fuel that we use in cooking, and I know you're just so common with the ones you have at home, your cooking gas, leaving out the other ones that we use. Okay, now anything that helps us do what? To generate heat in the cooking process can be referred to as what? Fuel. Okay, so now fuels that you can refer to as in the process of, or when cooking, is your firewood. Okay, firewood is one fuel that is used in cooking. Now people use firewood up until this day. People still use firewood. Maybe you haven't used them before, but people still use them up until this day. And then firewood is one fuel that is used, and it's very fast. Now people say foods cooked with firewood is sweeter than any other food or any other fuel used. Okay, so well, that is for their belief and system, but sometimes you can say it's true to some extent. Okay, and then we have the charcoal. Now for those of you going around, you see people doing boli around, your bole and fish. Okay, the type of fuel used in that scenario is the charcoal. They get the charcoal and then they put them in the pan and then they use it to cook. You can even use that to cook foods for occasion. Okay, charcoal is one fuel that is used in cooking. Another one that is very common that we use in our homes is what? The cooking gas. Cooking gas is one fuel that is commonly used around, that almost everybody has access to. Another fuel that is used in cooking is what? Electricity. Electricity is one fuel that is used. Now, if you have constant supply of power, you can use your electricity to do what? To cook. And then it's here, okay. Another one we have is palm kernel shell and fiber. Okay, palm kernel shell is used to, I remember back then when we were younger, they use it to cook. And it's very okay too. Another one that we use as a source of fuel too is referred to as what? Sawdust. Okay, now a whole lot of you wouldn't know that. Okay, sawdust is made from byproducts from what? Plywoods that they use in making woods. Now they get that sawdust and then they use it as a source of heat, to cook. So sawdust is one type of fuel that is used to cook as well. I'm sure you know the different types of fuel that is used in cooking now, so you won't just stick with them. Cooking gas, electricity, so you've learned a whole lot of other fuel that are used in what? Cooking. Let's proceed. Now let's look at factors to consider when using cooking fuel. Now first things first, I'm going to say it depends on where and how you're using it. Okay, now for the other fuels we've listed out, charcoal and then this kernel shell and all of that, so you have to look at the efficiency, okay, depending on what you want to prepare. Now how efficient is this source of fuel you want to use? Now cooking gas and electricity are more efficient than others when cooking in the house. Now for our homes, when we're cooking, we can use our cooking gas. They are more efficient, okay, efficient as per when you need to use them. And also cost. Well, cooking gas, electricity and kerosene are more expensive to use than others, okay, in our time. That's why most times in our villages they have access to firewood. They just go and they cut down a tree, they pick trees, or maybe someone is building somewhere and they're not using the trees, the bamboos again, they're not using the woods again, they just go and pick them, they're not buying it. Yes, sometimes you have to buy firewood, maybe if you're in the city, or no, but it's accessible, okay, it's easy to reach, you can get it, and it's not that expensive, and you can use it over time. Another thing you should consider is what availability. Okay, how often do you find this around? How often do you get access to it? Okay, like I said earlier, now firewood is readily available. You can find it anywhere. Okay, you can find it anywhere. You can just say, oh, seriously. And I had an experience that was very funny for me and my children, okay, in our home, like in our place. And then somehow our gas got finished and it was so late. There was no way for us, and we're in the middle of cooking, and then somehow I just thought, I said, what would I do to get this thing ready? And I looked, we had some plywood around. I told them, we went downstairs and then we put up and light up that firewood. And it was such a beautiful scenario for them. We were so excited and all of that. So we had to do that because we didn't have to go out to get it. Then the next day we had to go get gas. So we had to, because it was available. So firewood is what readily available, and then we can easily be picked around. That's why people in the village up until this day, they still stick around with what firewood, and not to talk of today's times that, you know, everything is just skyrocketing, everything is getting so expensive. You can decide to now, there are ways you can actually cook with firewood in your home that is healthy. You can actually get stands, a 3-point stand. You can get them in the market and then put them in your house, and you can use them, you know, even for grilling, roasting. You can use firewood in your homes to prepare, you know, some of these things. Okay, it's not local. Don't say, oh, it's local, it's outdated. No, it's our culture. It's part of it's part of the things we can imbibe and do. Even if you don't do them regularly or often, at least once in a while, you should be able to use them to do what? To cut costs. Now we want to look at the methods of cooking. Okay, food can be cooked in many ways. In many ways, okay? You can cook food in many ways, many ways. You don't have to just restrict yourself to one pattern of cooking, okay? Some people just stick to keep cooking with what? Boiling, and that's all they do. Now you can use the different types of method to cook. Now basically we have 2 types of heating methods, okay, when cooking. That has to do with wet cooking, that has to do with boiling, stewing, frying. This one that comes in contact with liquid, water, okay, that's wet cooking. Then we have the dry method of cooking, whereby, you know, you have to bake, you have to grill, you have to roast. There's no contact with liquid whatsoever. So these are basically the 2 types of heating methods of cooking that we have: the wet method and then the dry method. Now let's proceed. Now we have the different types of methods of cooking. We have boiling, then we have stewing, we have steaming, then we have baking, we have toasting, we have frying, then we have braising, then we have poaching. Now all of these, we're going to list them out and we're going to explain them. We're going to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of each and every one of these methods of cooking. So you're going to be learning them. So you don't just restrict yourself to one type method of cooking. You can be you can expand your horizons. You can cook in the different ways you want to cook, and then get different tastes in the type of food that you'll be cooking over time. Now let's look at boiling. Let's start with boiling. Now this involves cooking food in boiling water. Okay, this is very common. Everybody does boiling, like they boil their food, they cook using the boiling method. Now the water is heated to boiling point, 100 degrees Celsius, after which heat is reduced a little and the food is left to simmer in a covered pan until it is cooked. I'm sure you've used this method like always. Now this method is when the food comes in contact with water, and then it's boiling and then it's cooking. Let's say foods like your rice, you can boil your rice, you can boil your yam. Okay, now the various methods used in boiling food. Okay, then I want to go into the process whereby how you can boil using the boiling method. First things first, add water to the food, like your rice. Okay, maybe you have to parboil it, or your yam, your plantain, you have to parboil them. After they are well cooked, then you can strain and then you can serve. Okay, that's one way to use to cook. Then allow the food to absorb the water. In the process of cooking them, you allow the food absorbs the water in the boiling method. As you're cooking your rice, the rice absorbs it. So when the water is dried, what happens? The rice is ready. Okay, same thing for your yam and then your plantain. It absorbs the water, it takes in the water, so as it keeps absorbing the water, it gets it what softer for you to do what to eat. Same thing for your beans. Okay, all these are the ways in which the various methods used in what boiling food. And other thing is that you mix the food with water when cooking. That's when you have to do porridge. Okay, now the food comes, you're not at this point, maybe you're not parboiling, or you're not just straining the water away. Here the food and the water is cooked together. You're like a yam porridge, you're making your corn flour, your yam flour, the water and the food is boiled together until it gets dried, and then food is ready to be served. Now, what are the advantages of what the boiling method? Now, there are advantages to using the boiling method. Now, the first one is that it is simple and quick, a quick and simple method of cooking food. Very easy. It's more like a lazy man's way of cooking. Just put water inside the rice, go and sit down somewhere and watch Netflix and watch some things. Just put them in there. It's a very quick method of cooking. You don't have to, be checking on it. Boiled foods are suitable for all health conditions. Okay, very okay. Now, people that are invalids, convalescents can actually eat foods that are boiled. They don't have any restrictions to that. Another one is that boiled foods are easy to digest. They are easy to do what to digest. Yes, boiled foods are easy to digest, and it does not require constant attention. You don't have to be checking or you don't have to be there while you're cooking. You just put, and then you can go and time yourself. In the next 20 minutes, it should be ready. I'll come and check it. Okay, unlike other types of the methods of cooking. So this boiling does not require constant attention. It doesn't need you to be there when you're cooking. Okay, you just time yourself. Okay, so in the next 20 minutes, this year, 30 minutes is going to be ready, and then you come back and check on it. Now, it has its disadvantages as well, the disadvantages of the boiling method. Now, water-soluble nutrients such as vitamin C and B complex and minerals are removed from the food into the water. Now, this is a disadvantage of the boiling method, okay, because of the constant boiling and immersion in water. Now, you can lose some of these very vital vitamins that are very necessary, such as your vitamin C and the B complex and other minerals in the course of what? Boiling. So that's what happened. That's one of the disadvantages of what? Boiling. Another disadvantage is that food often look unattractive. Yes, when you boil food and then it's boiled, sometimes you even overboil them, they don't look attractive. Okay, now for children, they don't really want to go into eat and all of that because it's not really attractive. So foods from boiling method is really sometimes not very attractive. They are not attractive. Another disadvantage is that food may break into pieces during cooking. Yes, I'm sure you have experienced this. And sometimes if you're cooking or maybe you're boiling your yam and all of that, before you're checking back again, it's breaking because you would have cooked them and then they are breaking. So foods may break into pieces during cooking when using the boiling method. Another disadvantage is that it is rather long and slow method of cooking. Okay, it is a rather long and slow method of cooking food. That is a disadvantage of the boiling method. Okay, it's slow, it's lazy. You just put things in and you're just going to relax and all of that. It's slow. That's the disadvantage of the boiling method. Now we have another one, which is stewing. Stewing is another method of cooking. Now stewing is a long and slow method of cooking food with an appropriate quantity of liquid covered in a saucepan. Okay, now at the temperature just below boiling point. Now we can stew our foods. Now this method is one method too that is very reliable, but it has to do with immersion in water. But at this point, it's not at the boiling stage as per boiling, when it has to be boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. Here, the water is put in a little quantity, the liquid is put in little quantity, and then it boils at a certain temperature, okay, below boiling point, not above. Now, there are foods that are suitable for the stewing method. Not every type of food is okay for this method. Now, you can do your fruits and dried fruits, okay, fresh and dried fruits using the stewing method. And also vegetables, except the green ones can be used. You can cook your vegetables here this way. Like maybe you're making sauce, you can use your stewing method to do what? To prepare it. And also tough cuts of meat. Stewing method can be used to do what? To cook tough cuts of meat as well, okay, because you're going to be reducing it to boil, okay, below boiling what point, so that way it's going to get it soft, fast, and what's good for you to ready for you to eat. Now, what are the advantages of the stewing method? The first one is that it's economical on fuel. Yes, it is economical on fuel, and so you have to learn to be economical. So the stewing method is economical on fuel. You know, it's not boiling and it's not exerting a whole lot of and using a whole lot of fuel. Now, as only a small part of heat is what required. You know, it doesn't require a whole lot. Just, you know, it just gets to simmer as it's boiling. Another one is that it conserves food nutrients. Now, that's the essence of cooking food, to be able to conserve food nutrients. You're not cooking food to get all the nutrients all damaged. So why are you eating food if you're not getting any nutrients from it? So the advantage of stewing method is that it conserves what? Food nutrients. Another advantage is that the flavor of the food is retained. The flavor of the food is retained when the stewing method what is used. It retains the flavor. Now, there is also disadvantages to the stewing method. Now, it is a slow method of cooking, so it takes a longer time to do what to cook. Now, this is one disadvantage of the stewing method. It takes a long time. You have to be very patient. You have to take your time, hold back, because, you know, it's boiling below boiling point, so it takes a longer time to prepare. Now, more attention is required so that the food does not get burnt. You know, the liquid is not so much, so you have to be there. You have to pay attention so it doesn't get burnt in the process of what stewing. Now, you have to stay put and watch so you don't get your food burnt. You can't leave it and so I'm checking back. You have to be around while it's cooking. Now, sometimes vitamin C is destroyed due to the prolonged cooking time. You know, it takes time too. You know, a slow method of cooking, it takes time too. So vitamin C can be destroyed as well because of the long period of cooking. Now let's look at another type of cooking, which is the steaming method. Now, this is very, very one method that is, you know, okay. It's okay for those persons that are invalid. Very, very okay. Now, this is a moist method of cooking by steam from boiling liquid water. Okay. Now, steaming can be carried out above 100 degrees Celsius by means of pressure cooker or cooking. Now, like I explained earlier, for the steaming method, it doesn't come in contact with water. It comes in contact with moist. Okay. Now, and then you can actually get your water to be boiling, but what cooks the food is actually the steam. You're not immersing it into water. Okay, the steam from the boiling water or liquid does cooks the food. Now there are foods that are suitable for steaming. You have your small fish or fillet. Example, your cod steaks. They are good for steaming. Okay, you just season them and then you put them and let the steam cook them. That's very okay. Now, also you can actually steam your fresh and dried fruits to that method. You can actually use the steaming method to cook your fresh and dried fruits so they don't come in contact with direct heat. Okay, so that method is suitable for it. And another food that is suitable for the steaming method is your root vegetables and your potatoes, but not green vegetables. Now, root vegetables can be steamed. Okay, your potatoes, your carrots, you can actually steam them to use them to do to eat and to make your food. So these are the foods that are suitable for the steaming method. Now, the advantages to using the steaming method to cook. Now, the first one is that it is a healthy method of cooking because the nutrients are conserved. Yes. Now, this is a healthy method of cooking because nutrients are what? They are conserved. Now, they are not coming in contact with water like we said earlier, so you're actually conserving the nutrients using the steaming method. Now, it renders food delicate in flavor. Now, it renders what? Food delicate in flavor. You know, it's still intact. Your flavors are still there. You know, there are no alterations. They're still A-okay and then good to go. Okay, another advantages of what the steaming method is that there's less risks of overcooking. Here you cannot be wrong, okay, because you're not having to deal with cooking in water and then you're scared that it's going to overcook. Now, using the steaming method of cooking is that you have less risks of overcooking. Yes, okay. Now, there are a whole lot of things you can use the steaming method to do, and then you can never go wrong using that method. Now, also, now for those of you that love your jollof, agidi, you can use the steaming method. Your puddings, you can use the steaming method. It's very okay because they don't come in contact with water. Very, very good. Very, very good. Now, another advantage of the steaming method is that more than one dish may be cooked in one pot. Now, thus, this is an economical way of cooking. Now, as food and nutrition students, we teach you to be what? Economical. That's one thing you should be, conversant with and be able to apply, because there's no wastage. So now the essence of using the steaming method, you can do more than one dish, okay, and which makes it what? Economical. So cooking is easy, and then you can economize your fuel. In these times and seasons when things are expensive, you don't leave things to keep boiling and cooking. Okay, you can actually double tax, do two things at the same time, and then you're just burning one source of fuel, which is economical to you. Now, let's look at the disadvantages of the steaming method. Now, it is a slow method of cooking because of the lengthy process. It is a slow method of cooking because of the lengthy process. It is slow. Okay, so you have to be patient and then, take your time while you're doing it, because you're cooking using steam. Okay, so it's not like it's going to be boiling and it's cooking where you're seeing it boiling and all of that. So it's a slow method of cooking because of the lengthy process. Another disadvantage of using the steaming method is that not many types of food can be cooked by steaming. You can get to cook all the types of food using steaming method. Okay, that's why I stated some types of food that are okay using the steaming method. Not all the types of food that you can use using the steaming method. Another disadvantage using the steaming method is that steamed foods need careful garnishing to make them look attractive. Yes, they are just cooked using steam, so you have to go extra mile to do what? To garnishing them to make them look okay. Now, garnishing is very, very important when you have to serve your food. Presentation is key. So when you use the steaming method, you have to do what? Garnish your food attractively to make them look beautiful. Okay, now you can use your mint, you can use your basil, you can use whatever you want to use, your veggies, to do what? To garnish them so they can look what? Okay for one to eat, because there's no for the steaming method, you just cook them and they're just there, so you have to make them look attractive to enhance the look. Now, another disadvantage of what the steaming method is that steamed foods are not as palatable as foods cooked by other methods. Okay, now they are not as palatable, they're not as fantastic as it is with other methods of cooking food. Okay, so steaming method is not as palatable as other types of food methods of cooking that we have. So now we're going to proceed to the other slide and then the part 2 of this. So sit back. I'm sure you've learned some parts and then some methods of cooking food. So you don't just have to stick to one type of way of cooking food. So I'm sure you've learned a lot today in our class. So see you in our next class.